one piece of it is about this idea, this concept of collective impact. Can they, especially for children and youth, hone in on some themes that really impact the well-being of children and youth and how they're going to grow up and the lives they're going to lead when they're adults. And I think about resource, connection, and voice, and how can collectively the sector work together on trying to achieve these goals. The other thing, of course, is how can they catch up to young people who are moving at youth speed, already involved in their own philanthropy, but outside the sector.
Yeah, I think the impact of social media and young people's command of that technology, they're impatient, and that technology gives them greater transparency, greater control over the voice of naming the problems, defining the solutions. And I think all of that is something that the traditional philanthropy sector has to catch up with, because the new philanthropy of young people is moving at a very quick speed. It makes me think about the kinds of the populations of young people that philanthropy doesn't touch. And, it's like where philanthropy ends, where the roads end, and whether it's First Nations communities, young people in rural settings, remote settings. It seems to me that the farther away you get from urban centers, the less attention that you get from the philanthropy sector. And newcomers, people who don't even feel that they can claim any support or assistance. I think when you're not fluent in the languages, the predominant languages of the country, and you're outside on the margins, philanthropy doesn't touch you as readily either.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that, and I'm not sure impatient covers it all, but young people have an opportunity to just do things themselves, and they're taking advantage of that opportunity, and that's fantastic. Of course, there are groups of young people who don't have the opportunity to do things just themselves, not the same opportunity, but want to, and are struggling to find ways, I think. And I think of those young people in our mandate who, no matter what circumstance they're in, how difficult their lives are at the present, always talk about wanting to change things so others don't have to go through what they have, and how much power they have. It's not always about money, although I say that thinking about the young people who we work with, who need to have their basic rights guaranteed, so they have the resources, the housing, the services, the access to education, food, basic rights that others don't have to fight for so hard. Once that's provided, really, they are as talented, oftentimes because of their lived experience, have more knowledge that can make things change, that can benefit. So it's not always about just the money, and they have tools to use that they don't need the institutional solutions of philanthropy, the frameworks and the forms and the rigmarole that comes with that, because they've said we're moving forward anyway once they have the opportunity. The challenge, I think, for the sector is to figure out how to harness that, how to harness it and be supportive without getting in its way, how to partner with those children and youth.
When I look at some of the barriers, and I've talked about this, there's some very practical things, like if you're sitting in a shelter and you're hungry and you're cold and you don't have you haven't got a secure roof over your head. I think in many cases there are very basic needs we have to take care of within people, so that philanthropy isn't always about the grand gesture, and but it's also about making sure that people have their basic physical needs met before they grow.
I don't know if they're as easy to do, but I remember young people saying to me, support us and watch what we can do. And I think you can't do that without asking them. Yeah. So there are organization after organization. You've talked to me about the grassroots organizations with no money no resources, just doing something in their own communities, trying to make a difference. And those grassroots organizations, those young people doing that work, I think we need to reach out to them, ask them, value what they're doing, ask them how we can be supportive, and then of course get out of their way.